Hello everyone. I'm Mojtaba Rasti from Thales. Today is November 10th, 2025. I'll analyze Bitcoin with the Thales Market Screener. These analyses are for educational and informational purposes only. If you use them to make market decisions, you are fully responsible for any profit or loss. As always, we're on the 4-hour time frame. As you can see, yesterday we expected that upon hitting this zone, the price would bounce downwards, and then possibly move upwards afterward. But as you can see, exactly the opposite of what we expected happened, and the second scenario played out. That is, the break of this area, the break of 104,500, occurred, and the price finally broke this trend line. So now we have a trend line like this, which, as you can see, has been more or less broken. And after breaking the trend line, we've come up to the next area that's ready to be broken, which is around 107,500 to 108,000. To be more precise, it's 108,300, this top here, which actually seems like it's getting ready to happen because a flag is forming here. It will probably take a bit more time for the moving average and the RSI to get closer together here, and then another move will happen. The turning point that we've been talking about in several recent analyses has actually happened. Most likely, this was my final bottom, meaning 108,960 that we saw here. I think the chances of returning to 97 or 98 are now very slim. It seems that the rotation we were waiting for in the price has taken place. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Yes, you can see today's candle, especially if it closes like this with a body, is definitely significant. And of course, on the daily chart, you can see the very important top at 111,350. This is the top that, if reclaimed, will be very meaningful and significant. And here you can see this move here was accompanied by the RSI breaking above the moving average, which itself can be a bullish signal on the weekly chart. This event is very important. Look at the support that happened here from the bottom, which gave my bullish side support, and the support that the bullish bottom provided. And actually, the 50-week moving average here, just like here and here, and maybe even better than those. Look at the wick that was left here. See the wick on this candle? For example, this red candle here barely closed above the moving average, even here. But here, it clearly created a wick, and the body closed with a gap above the 50-week moving average. And if this week's candle closes green, it will be even more meaningful and excellent. And just like in these previous cases, we will probably see a jump, maybe even like here. Of course, as you can see, the highs are decreasing. Let's say the high we can expect here will probably be around 135 to 140, which we discussed in previous analyses. Okay, let's move on to the 4-hour chart and... Alright, let's move on. Let's check the market screener to see what we've got. From the start of today until now, for tomorrow's expiration, November 11th, let's refresh. 2,407 Bitcoin. In the form of 1,416 options contracts, which results in this curve you see, a curve that has a bit of a downward trend, but what stands out more is right here. This is the ceiling that's been observed here, 107, 107. The red curve shows a ceiling. After that, it goes into loss. Turning on delta makes it clearer. We're at a ceiling now, and a move down. Selling puts to 102,700. Around 102 is a key floor. On the upside, price rises as delta drops, up to 110,000, 112,000, where calls have been sold for tomorrow's expiration. Between here and there, this ceiling is the main daily ceiling. In this area, calls have been sold, so the ceiling is observed. Around here, the price is expected to pause by tomorrow's expiration, and for now, this is where we see a pause. Given the stance it's taken here, we expect it might attack this area as well, but we'll have to see how things will play out. So our ceiling could reach up to 112,500 as well. In the process database, the 90-second interval shows for tomorrow a floor of 102,800 and a ceiling of 107,500. We're moving toward the ceiling now. Our trend is heading upward, so in the coming hours, we could see up to 107,500, and in a way, reclaim the 107 ceiling. If I move the slider forward, you'll see that there isn't much change in the curve. Also, if we move the slider forward on this side, the downward lag drops, and here it becomes more volatile. You can see here that the floor could be 103,800 or 104. Meaning a pullback to 104, which is completely logical. It's reasonable for it to pull back to the level it broke. So far, it hasn't done that. It's just formed a flight here, but it could come back and hit 104. For now, the trend is upward. Here, 107,800 or 700 and 800 is the ceiling we're seeing. Let's move on to drawing the indicator and zones. Okay, you can see the buyer-seller agreement at the intersection points. The upper agreement is at 107,500 in loss. The lower agreement is at 102,200 in slight profit, but this profit isn't really dominant. The lower zone is actually the agreement zone from 102,400 to 101,900, and from 107 to 102,400. But the price trend we're in shows that the price has chosen the upper side. So, based on the direction the price has taken, naturally, the upper agreement is more accessible. So, we're probably going to see 107,500. That's more likely. But as you can see here, there's still a chance for corrective pullbacks down to around 103,000 or even 102,500. Even if that happens, you can see it doesn't really disrupt this upward trend at all. So if we consider this trend as a ceiling, here it actually becomes a trend, meaning the uptrend itself, and then its own downtrend. That's what this means. Let me see if I can find this tool. Yeah, I think this is it. If we consider this, you can see we might have entered a trend like this. The bottom of this trend is at 102,500. So what I'm trying to say is, we could easily drop down to 102,000 or 102,500, and this uptrend would still be valid. Alright, that's that point. Let's update the zones and continue. As you can see, the zones are almost equal in width. As we said, the lower zone is slightly in profit and is the area of agreement. The middle zone is from 105,000 to 106,000, and the price has currently stopped there. You can see the price has paused there, and we're not too far from reaching the upper zone. So, with a higher probability, I can say the price target is to reach that upper zone, meaning it will likely see 107,700, maybe even 108,000. Then, it could come back down to the lower zone and create an uptrend in the same direction you're seeing here. Here, let's activate the short contracts. Delta and Gamma. Well, as you can see, we have a very prominent short Gamma right here at 106,400. Around 106,400, the maker is long Gamma. Right here at 106,400, which is exactly where the price is currently struggling and wrestling. In fact, the maker is long Gamma here. The taker has sold a call, that's clear. You see, the Gamma is short, so the maker has bought a call. The maker here is a call buyer. If a probable market maker is present here and is a call buyer, their delta is positive. Their delta is positive, and at this point, where the Gamma is at its maximum and at risk, if they want to hedge, they hedge by selling the underlying asset. As a result, this area acts as a resistance, and you can see that right now, it's holding the price or keeping it in check. The price has been held here, and it's played a resistance role at this point. Ultimately, the taker has a long Gamma here at 100,760, which we can see, though it's much weaker. Also, the maker has a short Gamma at 101,000, right around the same bottom we've been talking about. You see, it's almost exactly this bottom, this lower zone, and our upward trend line. All of these are converging down here. This area below could. In fact, this could be the target. Besides these two Gammas, you don't really see much else. If we look at the intersections, for example, here we have a convergence of Gamma and Delta, which is important. 108,500 is again a significant number. And we also have another intersection here at 102,700. These are important intersections that could serve as price targets in the coming hours. We bring this over to this side. Let me turn off the Gamma and take a look at the next expirations. The 12th, here, I've turned on the November 12th expiration. The trend is downward, and it's gotten stronger. November 12th on its own is still, as you can see, bearish. November 12th alone is bearish. We're here right now. To the upside, we can go up to the peak, meaning 100 and, well, up to where it hasn't bent yet, still 108,500. 108 to 108,500. But to the downside, look, from where we are, the delta is bullish to the upside, and the red curve is also bullish up to about 108 to 108,500. Then we have put buying to the downside, with the average contract prices at 103,500 to 102,600 to 102,300, where at 102,300, Mirani Quimes goes into profit. So, this bounce upward again shows that in the coming days, it will probably happen. November 13th, you see, is still bearish. Our bearish gammas are at 98, though the bid is 154, but the volume is low. And November 14th, Friday, November 14th, Friday, again, that volatile pattern you saw in previous Fridays is visible. We're heading toward the top of this volatility, the volatility ceiling at 108,400. So, all the evidence shows that we have a continued move upward, probably up to around 108,000, and we'll likely retake the ceiling or at least make an attempt at 108,400 or 108,300, and then come back down, probably to gather energy for a stronger attack at 108,000. Okay, let's go to our own setup for tomorrow and review the detailed trades. Out of 2,417 Bitcoin, 953 Bitcoin were bought, of which 363 Bitcoin were call buys and 590 Bitcoin were put buys. You can see that it's the call buys that have been executed. For hours now, the price movement has been upward, 17 hours. No matter how you count the candles, we are completely bullish. So it's these calls that are being executed. It wants above 107, above 107. So we can still go a bit higher. The put buys are more, and the target for the put buys is 103,700 and below, 103,500 and below. That means this channel we've drawn here. If it's a bullish channel, then this is almost the channel's midline. Here is almost the channel's midline, around 104. So 104, 103,500. Right now, 104 could be the target for the call buys, which haven't been realized yet. Let's look at the sales. 1,464 Bitcoin sold, of which 987 Bitcoin are call sales, 476 Bitcoin are put sales. Here, the call sales complete the puzzle. That bullish move we saw, it's the call sales that have blocked it. You see, the call sellers are having a hard time at 107, a hard time at 107, meaning here. We're almost at the bottom. In fact, the bottom of this upper zone. So from 107 to 108,300, this range is where the price will probably stop. We're turning downward. Put sellers not yet executed. What bottom have they seen? They've seen a bottom of 150 and 200. They really haven't seen a very low bottom. So from here, from 105,200 to, let's say, 104,000, that's the area where we can expect the price to correct. So that's the detailed look at the trades, which was really helpful and gave us a pretty clear perspective in line with the scenario we had. Alright, let's continue with this. You saw the coming days as well, so let's move on to the process data. In the process data, we have 1,655 Bitcoin in negative open interest, so let's say that's not a small amount. Let me change it to positive open interest, 1,066 Bitcoin, and still a volatile outlook, with a tendency toward the upside. Look, this is interesting. Right now, we're just at the bottom, seeing the volatility in the process data. If we consider it with positive open interest, we're at the bottom of this volatility. 105,700 is the lowest. The peak profit is 109,700, and then 114,500 is the volatility ceiling. If we move the slider forward, this gets adjusted a bit. So you see, the bottom comes to around 105,200, and the volatility ceiling, no, actually it went higher, 110,300. Sorry, the ceiling came down. From 114, it dropped to 110,300. So this gets adjusted a bit, but the situation remains volatile. Now let's see, above 10 Bitcoin, there are 56 contracts. Above 12, there are 45. Above 15, there are 16 contracts. 16 contracts are bullish. Trades of 15 Bitcoin and above are fully bullish in outlook. I'll turn off the steps, but let's also look at the downside. We're here, and the movement down goes to 104,800, then to 104,000. The delta follows this downward move, so we see lower deltas with lower prices. Here we reach the bottom, around 104,000. The price drops as delta increases. This continues down to 100,000, 101,000. Here's the bottom. Moving up to 108,909, we're supported by the delta, and that's the ceiling. Alright, let's see what strategy we have here. Well, there are two, and they're block strategies. Let me show you this one and this one. Okay, so this one looks really interesting. Right now, I can't remember the name of this strategy, but actually. Yeah, that's right. So let me show you. Okay, one is this, and the other is this, right? Now this one starts making a profit from below, from 88,000. That means this strategy actually has a loss zone, which is a bit strange. If the price stays between 104 and 89, it falls into this loss pit. From 88,000 and below, it goes into profit, and on the upper side, it's completely break-even, a break-even zone. It's kind of weird, honestly, even I. It's also slightly in loss right now, since this one has paid a premium. And honestly, this is a bit unfamiliar to me. I still don't quite get it. Look, this is the same. This strategy is also, again, in a way, look. This is one, and this is the other, and then these two, their block numbers are the same. And why is that? This is actually clearly a put-selling position. It's a put-selling position. It has set the floor at 103,600. Now, why did they trade it this way? They've sold a put. They've sold a put. 22.5 Bitcoin, and they bought a put, the 100,000 put. Basically, 15 Bitcoin. So they've done this put selling to cover costs and get the premium. But the structure is strange. I haven't seen it done this way before. Up to about 103,504, they've set the floor for tomorrow. That's the situation with this strategy. Let's move on. Liquidation. Why this? Alright, the internet too. Okay, let's check the liquidation. If the internet cooperates, that is. we have liquidity on both sides. On the upside, the liquidity that's closer to the price starts from around 107 up to about 107,600. And then there's another level from 108 to 108,500. From 107 to 107,600, liquidity is closer to the price, likely the target next hour. On the downside, from 105 to 104,700, and at 104, there's liquidity too. We can consider the upside, then look for downside. Look, here it's the same situation. Overall, downside liquidity is higher, but with the current trend, the price likely aims upward. It will probably collect liquidity up to 100 and 500, then target the liquidity below 105,000. So if we want to. Actually, if we want to draw an arrow as usual to predict and analyze the price, considering the flag that's forming here, which looks much clearer on the 1-hour chart. Look, even this candle seems to be starting an upward move for this flag. If we consider this green candle as the flagpole, and if it wants to move up by the same amount, you can see it could go up to around 108. So we can draw it like this. Based on the evidence we mentioned, it's likely that around 108 will be the top, and then it will pull back to around 104,500. Then, we can expect the next move to be another attempt upward, a full breakout of 108, and possibly a move up to around 110. Now, this drop down could go even lower. As we said, it could come down to 102, or even as low as 102,300. But for the first stage, we'll assume that 104 will act as support, around 104 to 104,500, which is a level that was previously broken. So if this level holds as support and pushes the price back up, we can expect a move like this. Thanks for your attention, and I hope it was useful.